Welcome to Doctors of the Baobab. On this podcast, we go beyond the white coat to get to know the doctors that we admire and respect. Join us as we explore the stories behind the stethoscopes, uncovering the humanity behind the medical expertise. And on today's episode, I'm honored to have the extraordinary Dr. Esoimeme is a powerhouse of intellect, dedication, and resilience who's blazed trails in internal medicine and public health. With deep roots in Nigeria, where she earned her medical degree from Ambrose Ali University College of Medicine, she carried her passion for medicine across the continents. She didn't just stop at a medical degree. She elevated her expertise by earning a master's in public health from Boston University and a PhD in public health from the prestigious University of South Carolina. Dr. Esoimeme is not one to rest on her laurels. She took her skills to the next level by completing a rigorous internal medicine residency at UAB Montgomery, and which is a testament to her grit, to her determination, and to her excellence. But beyond her impressive professional achievements, her life is rich with joy and connection. Whether she's spending quality time with her family and friends, tending to her garden, exploring new destinations, or diving into thought-provoking reads as a founding member of a book club, she embodies a balance of ambition and warmth that's truly rare. A shining example of what it means to lead with intellect, compassion, and authenticity. Dr. Gloria Esoimeme, thank you so much for joining us on Doctors of the Baobab.
Thank you so much for having me. That was really sweet. Thank you.
You know, something that I love doing on this podcast is really to hype the guests up, you know, when I write the intro, but I find it very easy to do because most of the guests, or in fact, all of the guests, you know, they give me so much material. So it's just a matter of making sure that I find the right adjectives to reflect the excellence that comes through this podcast. But I'm so happy to have you on the podcast and hopefully for our audience to get to know a little bit more about you as well. So I think a good place to start is your roots. And I know before we started the podcast, you made it very clear to me how proud you are of your Nigerian roots. Tell me a little bit more about your upbringing and how it is, what it is in your upbringing rather that brought you to this point today.
Thank you so much. I think so many things about my upbringing. I think my family, just being Nigerian and also being religious. I'm Christian, and being female, being Black, all of that put together. Those are the things that make me who I am today. I'm from a large family. I have six siblings, 5 sisters and 1 brother. And so growing up, I always grew up in an environment where you have to collaborate with people, where you have to respect order, where you also have to make people respect you. So I grew up in that environment. So just knowing how to navigate is something I learned from childhood. And my parents, my dad he still is, he's an engineer. I don't think you ever stop being what you were trained to be. He's like super smart, very smart. My mother is a nurse, and just having that and having my siblings, and then just having the Nigerian mentality where we think we are more than what we really are. Maybe we really are that, we just feel we can do anything. So just having that Nigerian mentality, and then most importantly for me, it's my faith, then just being a Christian, that just kind of gave me a really good anchor just to navigate from where I started as a child. I can still remember my earliest memories are from when I was 3 years old. I can remember from when I was 3. And then now that I'm in my 40s, I can see my journey as I have transversed from different stages in my life to where I am today.
Yeah. And so in your upbringing, what were the early experiences that shaped your understanding of the medical profession?
It was twofold. The first was my mother, who was a nurse. personally, I didn't want to be a doctor. I wanted to be a lawyer. Like I could remember for years I wanted to be a lawyer. I would imagine myself, and my mother would just gradually just say, it's really good to be a doctor. And she would encourage me with everything you won't even imagine. I'll share this. My palm was really hard. Like it's still hard now. My mother will be like, "Oh, Gloria, do you know, if you become a doctor, your palm is gonna be really soft." And then in my fourth year of medical school, I was like, "Mommy, my palm is still hard." She was like, "Oh, you don't know. Doctors always wash their hands, so their hands are gonna be hard." I was like, "What?" My mom did everything, and it wasn't that I give her credit for, because I'm so grateful. I think one of the best things I ever did was go to med school, because it's given me opportunity to serve and also develop myself in ways I would never have thought of developing myself. But she wasn't forceful. It was just this kind of little nudge here. "Oh, you're really smart. You can do anything you want to do. Oh, I can see you as a doctor. You will be a fabulous doctor. Oh, look at that person. That person is a doctor. Oh, you and that." She just kept saying it. And then gradually okay, see if my mom thinks I can do it, and I think I can. And when I was having problems with science, like chemistry was just not my thing. That woman got me a private teacher. Like he would come to the house and teach Gloria, and then she did whatever it took for me to get into med school without it being forceful, without it being there was no aggression. It was just believing in me and just nudging me towards her dream, which is now mine. So that's
Mhm.
and then the other was because I was born in an urban area, but we later moved on to a rural area. And there was a hospital that was there. It was this physician. He really had no business being there, but he came back to serve. And I attended the hospital also had like a kindergarten, had a school which I attended. And so that was also an influence. Like we would see the hospital, we would see him do things, see his wife who was a matron, and that and my mother. I think those were like the earliest influence that I had to be.
I'm curious about what your mother saw and your reflection of that. I suppose now, as a qualified doctor, you work with other doctors, and you alluded to early exposure to the physician in the hospital. Looking back now, what are the qualities or attributes that your mother saw in you that might have made her say, these are qualities and attributes of a doctor? And if you think about doctors in general now, what do you think she saw?
Well, I'm not sure. Maybe, you know what, I'm going to ask her. But if I just think back to the things she says to me, she tells me that I am very kind. She would say, "Oh, Gloria, you're very kind." Then she would tell me that I'm very smart. She would tell me that I'm very thoughtful. These were things she even told me this weekend when she came over for Thanksgiving. So those are things she's always told me since I was little. Like, "Oh, you're very kind. You're very smart." Those are things I don't know if those were the things she saw, or, she was a nurse and she wanted her daughter to be a doctor. Maybe, I don't know what she saw, but it's just whatever she saw, whatever strategies she had in place, it worked. So I'm here today. So
Mhm. And so just building on that, do you believe that there is a certain type of personality that makes a good doctor?
I would say yes. I don't think being smart is what makes you a good doctor. Being smart. No, being smart is not. Being smart would make studying medicine a little bit easier for you, but it's not going to make you a good doctor. Being arrogant, just, sometimes when you're so smart and you think you know everything, that's a bad doctor, because you don't know your limit. You don't know when to stop. You don't know when to say, "You know what, I don't know this anymore. Let me ask my colleague. Let me refer to someone else." I think having empathy, that's the highest quality any doctor can ever have. Because there's some patients I see, and I don't really know what they have, and I'm stuck. Just that empathy is okay. Let me go back and read a little bit more. let me ask my colleague who is like an infectious disease doctor, like, okay, what do you think about this? And that empathy comes with humility, because you're like, oh, this person is suffering. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to go out of my way to find out what it is. I think empathy is a key quality any doctor should have. Being smart is great, you know. I think just smartness without empathy would be good for IT, where you're dealing with computers, so, but not when you're dealing with human beings. And people, they don't just come with their disease. They come with their family issues. They come with so many stories. We're social beings. They come with, oh, I have my grandson living with me. This is what I'm dealing with, or my husband, my wife, and you also have your diabetes as well as you have all of those issues. So just being smart would not really help you connect with your patients. For them to, they may trust you to a certain extent, but there's a level of trust they will have when you have that empathy and you can truly connect with them beyond just having diabetes, hypertension, or whatever disease we're trying to treat.
Mm-hmm. And listening to you and the way that your body language and your tone changes when you talk about what a good doctor looks like, I think I believe this is probably what your mother saw in you as well. These are the qualities that you say, that this is the type of doctor. Being a nurse, she probably has some good insights into what makes a good doctor. So I'm sure there's also what she saw. But notwithstanding, you obviously you worked through the chemistry.
I did.
And you found yourself in medical school. Tell us a bit about your medical school experience. How do you remember medical school?
Medical school was challenging because even I was my mother said I was smart, and I know I am smart, but medical school, it's the gathering of all the smarts, so the competition was really, it was a lot. And then I was a little bit more, and fine, everyone was young. We got into med school at 17, where you're still trying to find yourself, you're still leaving home for the first time, you're getting your freedom. And then all your other friends who got into other courses, who are maybe studying other specialties, they are partying and having their normal life, and you want to have a little bit of that. But then it feels like, even though your parents are not there anymore, it feels like medical school becomes your parent. It holds you bound, and I really did not enjoy being bound so much. So just that time to sit for hours and hours to study, just it took me a while before I grew into my own, and then I started excelling in med school. So
Yeah.
it was not, it was, some people just got into med school and they were like, oh yeah, they just studied and they just passed. No, for me, I'm like, oh, there's a party, okay, I'm gonna go to that party. And then I come back, I'm like, oops, I have all these amounts of stuff to study. But when I got older, I got more mature, I knew, okay, now this is real business. Then I started excelling.
Yeah. And that experience of having to understand yourself by yourself on your own without the support of family in a very competitive environment. What are your thoughts currently about what you learned about yourself in that time?
You know what? Looking back, I still don't regret that I had that time just to play and just be, because I was still young, right? I was still a teenager, and the things I did then, I don't want to do them now. And that time's gone. I don't wish. Some people wish, oh, I wish I was 20. No, I'm happy being 43. Just so content at my age, because I think that when it was time to play, I played. And then when it was time that if I didn't study, it would affect my future, I got my act together and I started studying. So I think, and then I was never one to say, what would people say about me? No. Because and I'm so glad I had that mindset even when I was young, because now those people are not really in my life. And I would have lost out on all the opportunities and experiences that I had, just saying, oh, what would people say? Then I go study, go back to my room, study. Because that's what most medical students did. They just studied, went back to their room, studied. That just was not me. I was just too free spirited until I got to my own. I'm like, all right, now, Gloria, you got to be serious. And then, and that's, it took me like 3, 4, I think I got really serious my 4th year of med school. That's when I think what got me to be really serious was I had this group of friends and we all took an exam. There are times I'll write an exam, have a receipt, I'll write my exams, but this was so painful. Um, So we had written our 4th year exam, and then I had to retake a class. All my close friends passed, and I did not pass by 0.8. And I was like, this is never gonna happen again. This is no, no, no. And that was like a turning point in my life. And then just after that, it was a different story. That I started excelling. Some of my classmates could not even believe that. Like, oh, are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure that's really Gloria's score? Because I was like the most playful person in class, and all of a sudden, I'm topping the class in some exams. You're like, how did that happen? But I just got to myself. That's just what, and no regrets. I feel like people, when you're going through the journey in life, just be where you are, but however, don't be there for too long. Know when it's time to grow up and then move on to the next level.
I love that. And we're going to talk a little bit more. I know you have a passion when you mentioned that you're free spirited. I know you love traveling. So we're going to talk a little bit about that towards later on in our conversation. But I wanted to get your thoughts around the lesson that came out of not passing with your classmates and how that shaped your attitude towards failure, because that is a normal part of life. We don't necessarily always succeed in what we want to do. What was your big takeaway from that moment that you've applied later on in life?
So the first thing I did was ask myself, why did I fail? And that's something I have always done since that time. And it's something I learned from my dad. He kind of taught me, but there's a difference between when they teach you stuff and then when you learn stuff. So when that happened, I had to ask myself, okay, Gloria, why did you fail? I'm like, all right, you failed this class because you didn't study. Okay, why didn't you study? Okay, I didn't study because I just didn't have my priorities right. And then I said, all right, what do I need to have my priorities right? And then I got my priorities right. And then I found people who were going in the same direction as I was going. And so I studied with, when we, all of us who didn't pass the exams, we studied together. But when I got back to class, I'm like, no, they wanted to be close friends with me. I was friends with them, but I was not study buddies with them. I'm like, no, we're at the top flyers. These are the people I want to hang out with. When they're gonna go study, I'm like, hey, call me. I'm like, hey, carry me along. I would literally tell them, I'm like, please carry me along. So that's a lesson I've learned in life, that wherever I want to go, I need to find people who are going in that direction or who are there already, and then go with the flow. It's easier to go with that flow rather than being with the bottom feeders, because I was a bottom feeder at that point. There's nothing wrong with being that, but I just found people who were going in the direction I wanted to go. And that's something I have always applied in my life after that time.
Mm-hmm.
Just
So
like a practical example. Let me give you a practical example of that.
sure.
So fast forward, finish med school, and I said, okay, I want to do a master's in public health. But I'm like, okay, where do I want to go? I said, okay, I want to do my master's in the US. And there were so many, we were so many friends together at that point, where I found 2 other people who were writing the GRE, getting all the applications together. Those were my best friends. And now the 3 of us, we've all finished our masters. Some have finished their residency. One is now a director in some pharmaceutical company in Maryland, and I'm here. So that's what I did. I went with the flow rather than work in isolation or move with people who were not going in the direction that I was going. That was just an example.
I think a great example there of firstly surrounding yourself with people who are like-minded, who have similar ambitions and goals as yourself, or even have arrived there. but
Correct.
also how to leverage and collaborate with other people. Now, those are amazing Ubuntu qualities of working together with other
Together,
people, right?
yes.
And so we've talked a little bit about failure, but let's talk about success and how you define success. How do you define success for yourself?
I think before you can define success, whatever that means to anybody, you need to have a goal. So once you've achieved that goal, then you've succeeded. So when there's no goal, you can't really measure your success, or you can't measure it. So if I say I was going to call you, or we say we're going to have a podcast and we're having it, so we're succeeding. That's a metric, right? And then we could now have other metrics, but you have to set goals before you can goals, and then measures for those goals before you can truly define success. So it's a very vague, it's not one size fits all. One person could achieve one thing and not be and would not call that success, while another person, that would be like the best thing that ever happened to them. All it depends on what our goals are, it depends on what our natural abilities are, it depends on what our backgrounds are, where we're coming from and where we're going. So it's hard to just have one definition for it. I don't know if that makes
Sure.
sense.
Absolutely. But perhaps you can share one of your successes that you're particularly proud of to date. I'm sure there are many.
So the one I am most proud of, I think, so it's with my current job. So right now I work as an internal medicine doctor, and I absolutely love the practice of medicine. I enjoy my patients, I enjoy caring for them. But at the same time, I just didn't want to be burnt out. So when I started, I was working 4 days a week. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to ask my employers if maybe I can work for 3 days for the same pay. And they agreed. So for me, that exceeded my expectations. So I would call that being, really, that's success. So that's something, because I just didn't know it was possible. I was like, "Oh, I'll just try." And just not, maybe because my expectations were not high and I exceeded my expectation. That's why I see that as being successful. Then other things I would call success was, just where I am today. I would humbly call myself successful, because when I moved to the US, I came in with almost nothing, like $250, big dreams. So I said, I'm moving to the US, I'm going to do my master's, do my PhD, get into residency in 10 years. And I had just $250 and a visiting visa. And then I have accomplished that. And I have assets, like seven figure net assets now. So I'm like, yeah, you've done well, girl. You've done well with $250, no student loans, no, just being able to accomplish that. I feel proud of myself. But I know this is not the end of the journey. But at this point, I'm also gonna be thankful for where I am.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, I know doctors, we're generally very humble, but I'll definitely agree with you based on what you're sharing that overall you've definitely achieved your goals in all their breadth. And I'm going to come back to the issues that you raised about negotiating with your employer and work-life balance, because I think there's also another area that you particularly passionate about. But I want to pick up the thread from that dream of becoming a public health specialist and expert, but then also how you get into internal medicine residency. Just tell us more about a little bit about that journey and from the time that you land with $250 and a visitor's visa. Did you imagine that you'd be sitting here today? What was the journey like? What were the challenges along the way? Perhaps somebody is watching in South Africa or Nigeria and wanting to learn how did Dr. Gloria do it? Tell us a little bit about your journey.
So I think the first thing is for you not to know. You should have the big goal in mind, right? If you know what the middle of that journey is gonna be like, you're not gonna do it. Because at some point, so first of all, when I came, because I have a sister here, so I stayed with my sister on my visiting visa. I already knew, I'm like, okay, I'm moving to the US, I'm done. But then the visiting visa, I was like, okay, I don't even know what I was thinking, but I just left with the visiting visa. I didn't know. But when I got my admission to Boston University, then I went back home and switched my visa to a student visa. And then I was just so blessed. I was so lucky because I didn't have the funding for it. Boston University, one semester was like 20 something thousand dollars. I didn't know. I don't know. If I knew, I would not have even started the process, because if I was going to save towards my education, I would still be saving back home till now. So I was just lucky. I got scholarships, and some scholarships were merit based. Some were just because I told you I'm Christian. Some were just the favor of God. Like, people would just put in words for me even when I didn't ask. I would talk about something else, and they're like, "Oh, how are you gonna pay your tuition?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna pay it." And they're like, "No, no, 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 no. How are you gonna pay your tuition?" And I'm like, "I don't know." And then they was, "Okay, don't worry." And then there was a semester. When it was time to pay, it was like $50 that I had to pay. That was rather 20 something thousand dollars was like $50. So it was just, then when I got to grad school, sorry, my PhD program, I got some funding, and it was just an interesting journey of favor, and a case of when there's a will, there's a way. When you take the first step, then the others, you know where you're going to put your next foot. But if you don't put one foot down, you would never know that you have to put the other one. You're going to keep standing. So you just need to keep moving forward. Sometimes it may look like you are crawling. Sometimes it may look like you don't know what direction you're going to go next. But when you keep moving, then you surround yourself with the right-minded people, and also you keep a hopeful outlook, and just an expectant outlook that things are going to work out, and you're hardworking, and you're truly kind and pleasant to people, just genuinely, not because there's an end to it, just being gracious. You never know where your lucky break would come from.
Very encouraging and supportive words, I think, comforting. I think what comes out very strongly from your journey is your faith, not only in yourself, but also your spirituality as well. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. So let me ask you now about public health. Why public health?
I think public health was mainly when I was in Nigeria, it was more, there was a big need for public health. And so I enjoy medicine, but medicine is so, it's there's a set of rules, right? So you come in, you have XYZ symptoms, then I know it's heart failure. Then I do my test and I confirm it. You've smoked for XYZ number of years, you have XYZ symptoms, we run a few we it's but with public health, you can tell where it's going. You can't, when you do research, you have an idea, but it would just blow your mind. So that's why I like that aspect of the part that's not very predictable. And then I still have the part of medicine is still not predictable. People still die, we still make mistakes. But it's very prescriptive. You know all the components, and if you've done it for, I think where that fear of being bored in my practice came in was, I think it was my 5th year of med school. I was talking to one of my colleagues, was asking the patient a question, and I could note, I'm like, oh, he's going to ask this next, and he did, or he's going to ask this. I'm like, okay, that's when I still, there's so much I don't know now, but it's just cut and dry. It's once you've gotten the hang of the basics, then you know. But with public health, if it's programs, you're designing a program, it's just, that's just so interesting. You think it's going to work out, and then you're like, no, it really didn't work out. Or you're doing research and you think that, I like that part. But what I did was, so with because I'm Nigerian, I hope to go back. I was going to say I hope to go back home someday, but that's not. I hope to move to South Africa someday. So I started with global health because I felt I wanted something that when I'm going back home, I can apply that when I go home. And then for my PhD, it was health services policy and management. And my research was more on physician-patient communication. So that's still a skill I bring to my everyday practice. And the research that I do is still along those lines. So that's why public health and medicine, because of my long-term goal of going back home and then applying all of these skills.
Yeah, and it sounds like you've brought them together, the public health and the internal medicine, very, very well. They live together within you in your day-to-day work. I promised that I would circle back now again on your day-to-day work and the interest that you have in negotiation and work-life balance, because
Correct.
what you've said, I can imagine that you're a very, very busy doctor as well. Let's talk a little bit more about how you managed to get that right, and especially in the context of burnout. We know that this is, a challenge in the medical community, not only medical community, but particularly in our case, especially coming out of the COVID-19.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts around work-life balance? How are you getting it right? And what are you doing to ensure that you manage to bring your passion and your full self to work every day without burning yourself out?
I think one of the tricks is to have a place you truly enjoy going to in the morning. Like there's no day I'm getting ready to go to work and I'm like, oh, no. It's like, oh my God, what who am I gonna meet today? What patient am I gonna meet? And then what I do is maybe just because of my personality, I don't see my patients as diabetes, hypertension. I see them as Mrs. This, who is from this. Her husband is this. This is her story. And she has diabetes, right? So it's because I'm an extrovert. So it's like I'm just having fun talking to all these people with their amazing stories. It's just one story after another story, another story. And then I also see them and treat them. Then there's still the paperwork. I'm not denying the weight of the work, but then I love the people I work with. It's just like I open the door and I'm just happy being there. And when it's time to go, I'm also happy going back home. But what I was able to do also so that this my joy and happiness of being at work doesn't turn into something sour because of when it becomes too much is I was able to negotiate to work 3 days a week. So technically I work 12 days in a month. Then I work 3 days and I have 4 days to myself where I can do whatever I choose to do. And then I have other commitments that I'm trying to cut down on. I'm trying to cut down on the next year. I'm going to cut down on some other commitments that I have, like some of my side gigs. I'm going to cut down some of those so I can just have more time to just be and just develop myself a little bit more.
So it's interesting that you talk about negotiation and the skill and art of negotiation. What do you think prevents doctors and other colleagues from being able to negotiate their time for themselves, especially in light of preserving their mental health and their energy?
I think they're scared. It's just
Mhm.
fear. And for me, I've lived on $250 before, so I'm like, what's the worst that could happen? You know, it's just fear. And some people are there's some people are scared of taking that step. They don't know the value they bring. They don't know that they you need them, but they also need you. And as a doctor, it's so easy to get another job. It might not be the same. It might not be the same. Maybe you have family, you don't want to uproot your kids. You have strong ties, or maybe you are super specialized, so it's hard to get something that would match what you have. But sometimes, some places, you need to let them know the value that you bring and let them know you enjoy being there. Because you enjoy being there, this is what will make you stay there longer. And some places are just toxic. You just have to leave. You don't know, even if you cut off your head, they're still not going to appreciate you. Just take your bags and leave. But sometimes it's good to know when to walk away or when to try to get that work life balance from a particular place. It's just that's just understanding that these people, it's they don't understand, and then you make them understand. They're like, now we get it. And then some, you're like, let me make you understand. They would never understand. Then those people, you don't waste your time with them. You just take your bags and you go. The earlier you go, the better for your mental health. Because if you are in a place that's toxic, that you're not happy, right? So even if you do 3 days, you're going to complain the other 4 days. You're gonna talk to your spouse, and all you're gonna talk about is how you hate your supervisor, or how you hate the people you work with. You call your friends, and that's what you talk about. So it's still continuous, even when you're not there. It's still there. Unlike when you have a place where you enjoy working. So even if you're gonna talk about it, you're gonna have that good feeling about the place when you're talking about the place. So it's that, just knowing when to leave, or just not being, I think number one, not being scared. It doesn't matter how much you have in your savings or not, but just not being scared. So that way you're not making plans based on just from fear. You can make more logical decisions when you're not scared.
No, definitely. And I think fear sometimes is, fear obviously is a very big factor in holding us back. And I think this is, from what we've talked about, the reason that you are going to be there for colleagues, to hold their hand, to support them, and coach them through some of these strategies that you were able to overcome, right? The fear that
Right.
you were able to overcome as a coach, because we don't have to do it alone.
No, no, we don't have to do it alone. It's always easier when you have someone to walk with you through that process.
Yeah, definitely. So, we'll definitely, for people that might be interested in maybe getting your support, and knowing more about how you can support them through some of these challenges, we'll share your information, and they can also reach out to you, and discuss getting a coaching from you. But I promised that I would circle back to the travel, because I went on your Instagram. But before I get there, the last sort of piece that I wanted to tie up around work before we get to the fun stuff is the leadership role that you also have. And I wanted to understand a little bit about your leadership philosophy. What, in your view, makes one a good leader?
I think one of the things that would make you a good leader is putting yourself in the shoes of the people you're leading. So many things, with not just one thing. Having clear vision of where you want to take whatever capacity in which you're leading. What's the goal? And once you have that goal, then you also have to put yourself in the position of the people that you're leading. And then most importantly, you have to train people. You can overtrain. Just keep training them and keep letting them know what the vision is. You train, you let them know what the vision is. You train, let them know what the vision is, until they tell you the vision. If they can't tell you that vision, you're not done. They should tell you. If you are, let's say, let me use, if I am a primary care doctor and my MAs do not know what my vision is for my patients and all my metrics, then I'm not doing a good job. They should know, like, this is the goal, this is the number we want to hit. They should know it. So it's your job to train and retrain while you have empathy for them while they're going through that process. So having a clear vision, having empathy, and then training and retraining.
hmm And it sounds like you're a very collaborative type of leader. You believe in empowering your team, in co-creating solutions with your team, and also showing some compassion. And this kind of goes back to some of the earlier qualities that you mentioned, that I decided your mother saw in you. Sometimes we have a blind spot to our own qualities, but it sounds like this carries through also in your leadership. Would that be correct?
I would think so. I want to think so.
So tell me more about the traveling, because I know when we first connected, it was about travel, right?
It
And
was.
your interest in travel. And then I went onto your social media and I saw you are all over. You are at the beach, you are in the mountains, you are in the snow, you are in the big cities. Tell me a little bit more about this passion for traveling and where it comes from.
I think it comes from my dad. My dad was always traveling right from when we were little. We were a lot, right? So he had 7 kids. So it's hard to travel with 7 kids. So he would have to split us in two, like, oh, this group is gonna come with me this time, and then the next time it's another group. And so my dad just loved to move. So I think he kind of put that spirit in me and my siblings. So I love to travel. I would travel for once I have the opportunity, I would travel, but the one place, I'm sure I told you this, the one place where they're like, there's an opportunity I would go is South Africa. Like, oh, there's a conference, so I'm going. there's a classmate who's there who's, oh, I'm going to go visit that classmate. There's a cruise. Oh, I'm going, like, I would go to South Africa for any reason. But I love to travel generally. And with
Well,
my work schedule now that I do 3 days on and 4 days off, it gives me more opportunity to travel.
yeah, and I'm sure you will definitely utilize that in the future. I don't want to say much about South Africa because I'm biased.
We're both biased, so it's okay. We're on the same side.
So at this point, I'm just going to maybe give you an opportunity and invite you to share anything else that you'd want to share with the audience that's on your heart and that they might find insightful from you.
I'll just go back to that part about not being afraid and knowing what you bring to the table, working with excellence, giving your best every single day, and letting the people who supervise you know you're giving your best. Don't whatever you do, don't do it and hide it. So then, 2 years down the lane, you want to do surprise. No, 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 no. When you do it, let them know. You have to, you have to blow your own trumpet. If you don't blow it, no one else will. And before people will blow your trumpet, it will take a long time because they're all blowing theirs. They're blowing theirs, so you got to blow yours. And people shouldn't be scared. They shouldn't be
Yeah.
scared to make whatever move they need to make.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Dr. Gloria, for being part of this podcast. I think that was a very deep and interesting conversation that we had. We'll definitely catch up in South Africa, I'm sure.
Yes. I would love that.
Okay, and I'll definitely make sure to put all your contact information also in the show notes for people that are looking for mentorship or coaching services from you as well. And that wraps up another insightful episode of Doctors of the Baobab. And I hope that as the audience, you found today's discussion not only enlightening, but also empowering. And before we part ways, I'd like to invite you to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode filled with more valuable insights and strategies for personal growth. And if you know someone who could benefit from our discussions, be sure to share the word and also encourage them to stay connected beyond the podcast. So follow us on social media, on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram so that you can also share the conversation, share your thoughts, connect with like-minded individuals who are also on their journey towards living their best lives. So remember to celebrate every small step that you take towards your goals, which is a victory worth celebrating. And until next time, keep striving, keep growing, and keep shining bright. Doctors of the Baobab, where medicine meets innovation.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.